Death by cliff, Inca criminal justice. No altar, no ritual, no ceremony, just a cliff and the longest second of your life. The Inca Empire was one of the most disciplined civilizations in the ancient world. Its three founding laws were devastatingly simple. Don't steal, don't lie, don't be lazy. But break one of those laws against the wrong person, and the state had zero interest in imprisonment, rehabilitation, or second chances. It had cliffs. Murder, insulting the Sapa Inca, cursing the gods, any of these carried a single sentence. The condemned was brought to the edge and thrown off. No trial that dragged for weeks. No elaborate execution preparation. The punishment was as blunt and final as the law itself. But for certain crimes, simply dying wasn't considered enough. Some offenders weren't thrown immediately. Instead, they were tied and suspended over the edge, still alive, hanging above the drop while birds of prey circled and descended. Death came slowly, piece by piece, in full view of anyone watching from below. The public setting was entirely deliberate. Inca law wasn't just about punishing the guilty. It was about making sure every living citizen understood exactly what awaited them if they crossed the line. This was the mildest death on this list, and the Inca Empire was only getting started. Crushed by stone, punishment for killing a junior official. A cliff gives gravity about 2 seconds to finish the job. The Inca had a method that gave it hours. The Inca legal system was remarkably precise. Different crimes carried different methods of execution, not randomly assigned, but deliberately matched to the nature of the offense. And for the specific crime of an official killing someone beneath him in rank, the Inca state had one very particular response. They laid him face down on the ground, and then dropped a massive stone directly onto his back from several meters above. The physics of this made it uniquely horrifying. A direct blow to the back from that height and weight didn't guarantee instant death. In fact, it frequently didn't kill at all. It shattered the spine. It collapsed the rib cage. It crushed internal organs while leaving the condemned completely conscious and unable to move a single limb. Historical accounts confirm that this punishment frequently left its victims alive, broken beyond any possibility of recovery, paralyzed, and in catastrophic pain, but breathing, still present, still aware of everything that had just happened to their body. Whether death came in minutes or hours depended entirely on how the stone landed. The Inca state wasn't always trying to kill quickly. Sometimes the punishment was designed to leave the condemned suspended in that space between living and dying, long enough to fully understand the consequence of what they had done. Naked starvation, adultery with the emperor's wife. In the Inca Empire, touching the Sapa Inca's wife didn't earn you a quick blade. It earned you absolute, agonizing exposure. The emperor's wives were considered sacred, untouchable, protected not just by law but by the full religious authority of the state. Any man who violated that boundary faced a death specifically designed to be as slow and public as possible. He was stripped completely naked, tied to a wall in an open public space, and simply left there. No blade, no fire, no dramatic ceremony. Just the sun, thirst, and starvation working quietly and methodically against a body that had no way to fight back. Dehydration alone typically kills within 3 to 5 days. But before that, the body goes through a systematic deterioration. Cracked skin, organ failure, hallucinations, complete physical collapse, all in full view of every citizen passing by. His suffering was the punishment. His visibility was the message. He didn't die in a pit or at the bottom of a cliff. He died upright, exposed, watched by everyone, and helped by no one. The first 3 entries on this list destroyed the body. From here on, the Inca state started destroying something deeper. The snake pit. Punishment for treason. Imagine complete darkness, no weapon, no light, and the sound of things moving toward you from every direction. In the Inca Empire, treason wasn't just a crime against the state. It was considered a direct assault on the gods themselves, and the punishment reflected exactly that. The traitor was thrown into an underground pit deliberately filled with venomous snakes, poisonous frogs, and ferocious wild animals. Sealed in, left alone. Venomous bites don't kill instantly, they burn. The flesh around each wound begins breaking down immediately. Venom spreads slowly through the body, causing convulsions, paralysis, and organ failure, sometimes over hours. But here's the detail that makes this entry truly remarkable. If the condemned survived 2 full days inside that pit, he was pulled out and unconditionally pardoned. Historical records suggest a small number of people actually made it out alive. They were then released back into society with one permanent obligation: to spend the rest of their lives publicly describing exactly what those 2 days felt like. The Inca state didn't just want them punished, it wanted them walking, talking, breathing proof of what treason costs. Death by bones. Punishment for treason against the state. Every punishment so far ended when the body gave out. This one hadn't even started yet. In the Inca Empire, certain acts of treason carried a punishment so specifically degrading that death itself was only the opening act. The condemned was executed, but what happened to his body afterward was the real sentence. His bones were carefully scraped, hollowed out, and crafted into musical instruments. Flutes, drums, objects designed to produce sound, played publicly at festivals and ceremonies, in front of crowds, sometimes in front of the traitor's own surviving family. Think about what that meant. The person who betrayed the empire didn't just die. He was transformed into an object of entertainment. His remains produced music for the very civilization he had tried to destroy. Every note played was a reminder to every listener of exactly what happened to those who challenged Inca authority. No burial, no dignity, no rest. Other accounts record that skulls of enemies were converted into drinking cups used by Inca nobility, sipped from at celebrations as a final, permanent act of dominance over the defeated. The Inca didn't just execute traitors, they repurposed them, turned defiance into decoration. And somewhere, in a crowd at a festival, a family stood listening to their father's bones being played as music. Capacocha. Children sacrificed to the mountains. The bone flutes were made from criminals. The Capacocha was reserved for the most perfect, most innocent children the empire could find. The Capacocha was the most sacred sacrificial ritual in the Inca Empire. Its victims were always children, specifically the healthiest, most physically flawless children in the realm. Selected as young as 6 years old, they were fed elite diets for months, dressed in fine clothing, and paraded through Cusco before the emperor himself. Families considered it an honor. The children had no say whatsoever. They were then walked, sometimes for months, to the summits of the highest mountains in the Andes. Altitudes above 6,700 meters, temperatures far below freezing, air so thin that breathing alone became a struggle. At the summit, they were given coca leaves and chicha alcohol to sedate them, then strangled, struck on the head, or simply buried alive in the frozen ground and left there permanently. We know all of this because the mountains kept the evidence perfectly intact. In 1985, archaeologists discovered the mummified remains of a 7-year-old boy near the summit of Mount Aconcagua in Argentina, the highest peak in the entire Western Hemisphere. His body told a story no historical document ever could. He had been bound with ropes so aggressively tight that multiple bones had fractured from the pressure alone. His pelvic bones had been completely displaced. His body was covered in vomit and fecal matter, the biological signature of extreme terror in the moments before death. This wasn't a sedated child drifting off in the cold. This was a small boy who knew exactly what was happening, who struggled, whose body physically broke under the ropes, and who died in a state of complete, documented panic. He was 7 years old, alone, at the top of the world. Then in 1999, archaeologists found 3 more children near the summit of Yuliayaco volcano, one of the highest archaeological sites ever excavated on Earth, at 22,110 feet. A 15-year-old girl, a 7-year-old boy, and a 6-year-old girl. Toxicological analysis of their hair and nails confirmed weeks of heavy coca leaf consumption and ayahuasca, a powerful hallucinogenic, in the period leading up to their deaths. They had been systematically sedated over weeks, not just hours. At the summit, they were placed in small chambers cut into the frozen ground and left to lose consciousness in the extreme cold. But the oldest girl told a different story. CT scans revealed she had a severe lung infection before she died, meaning she was already suffering significantly before the mountain finished the job. They were chosen because they were perfect, and that perfection is precisely what killed them. 4 children, preserved across 5 centuries, found exactly where they were left, each body a record of exactly how the Inca Empire treated its most sacred offerings. Burned alive, with your entire family. The Capacocha destroyed individual children in the name of devotion. This punishment didn't stop at the individual. It incinerated everyone who shared his blood. In the Inca Empire, insulting the gods carried the most collectively devastating sentence in their entire legal code. Not just death, total erasure. The condemned was burned alive. But the punishment didn't stop with him. His house was burned to the ground alongside him, his possessions destroyed completely, and in numerous historical accounts, his entire family, wife, children, relatives, were executed together in the same event. One person's crime. Every person connected to him paid for it. The burning itself was not designed for speed. Inca execution fires were built to sustain rather than overwhelm, meaning the condemned remained conscious through the early stages. The smoke, the heat closing in, the full awareness of what was happening with no possibility of escape. But the truly devastating detail was watching it happen to your family simultaneously. Historical accounts suggest family members were killed first, directly in front of the condemned, before the fire consumed him last. The Inca state wasn't just destroying a criminal. It was surgically removing every trace that person had ever existed. His name, his lineage, his home, his children. All of it, reduced to ash in a single afternoon. One offense, one fire, an entire bloodline gone. The execution of Emperor Atahualpa, 1533. Every entry on this list killed a person. This one killed an entire civilization. In 1532, Spanish conquistador Francisco Pizarro captured Atahualpa, the supreme emperor of the Inca Empire. The most powerful ruler in the Western Hemisphere was now a prisoner. His people responded immediately. They gathered the most extraordinary ransom in human history, enough gold and silver to fill an entire room. A room measuring 22 feet long and 17 feet wide, filled once with gold, twice with silver. Pizarro took every piece of it, then executed him anyway. Atahualpa was given one final choice: die by burning, which in Inca belief would destroy his soul permanently, or convert to Christianity and die by garrote, an iron collar mechanically tightened around the neck until it crushed everything inside. He chose the collar, accepted baptism, and on July 26, 1533, the last emperor of the Inca Empire was strangled in the same square where he had been captured. With him died 12 million people's way of life, their religion, their empire, everything. The most painful death on this list isn't the most brutal, it's the most final. Nothing that came before it, not the cliffs, not the pits, not the frozen mountains, compares to an entire civilization dying with one man.